In Miami Hurricanes football recruiting, there are flips and sometimes there are backflips.
You are Locked On Canes, your daily podcast on the Miami Hurricanes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
I am Alex Dono, University of Miami alumnus, co-host of Locked On ACC and writer for allhurricanes.com. And thank you so much to the everydayers for making Locked On Canes your first listen and your first watch today. We're available free wherever you get your podcasts. We're free on YouTube. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. On this episode, we will talk about reasons why you should have, or at least could have, faith in Miami's offensive coordinator after an up and down season last year. I want to talk about Georgia Tech trolling Miami on social media and why I don't really have a rebuttal until Miami proves it on the field this season. And yes, my friends, we do have some recruiting updates, and here to make his triumphant return. He overslept yesterday for the Truth Teller Tuesday. We're doing Truth Teller Tuesday on a Wednesday. Bruce Warner, you look very well rested after sleeping till like 10:30 yesterday morning.
Yeah, but you didn't tell him I didn't go to sleep until about 3:15. And I just couldn't wake. I woke up at 6:30, looked at the clock and said, I can't get up. And then I just woke up. It was 10:28. Oh my God, you must have done this show by yourself. I thought there'd be like 100 comments on it. Where is this jerk? But which everybody calls me. But whatever. I'm back. I feel good. I'm glad we're doing it today. We got a lot to talk about, right? A lot is going on. And I think we may have somebody watching and listening. I don't know. He's not on here yet, but we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see if our pal Mark Caesar may drop by as well. But okay, so Bruce, within the last week, I think it was last week, 24/7 Sports named Miami Hurricanes wide receivers coach Kevin Beard as one of the top 3 recruiters in the country. And I've heard the stories talking to players he's recruited over the past couple of years, Bruce. I spoke with, last year, Chance Robinson shortly after he committed to Miami. And he, told me that he and Beard, they just connected so well, and not just on a football level, on a personal level. This is a guy, Coach Beard, who of course played receiver at Miami in the early 2000s, was part of the 2001 national championship team. He connects so well with his players and with the recruits. And sometimes in connecting with these players, we see Coach Beard, KB, 43 years old. He's, couple of decades almost removed from his football career. Coach Kevin Beard is still able to go toe-to-toe. So what you're looking at here, for those who are watching this on YouTube, I'll describe it, of course, for the audio audience here. Vernell Brown III, a 4-star wide receiver out of Orlando Jones High School. He's on an official visit to Miami now. The visit started on Tuesday. It's going through Thursday. And so Vernell Brown, he's going through his photo shoot. And I don't know exactly how this came to be, but Vernell probably said, like, hey, I want to do a backflip in part of this shoot. And then Kevin Beard decided he's going to do the backflip with Vernell. Here's how that played out. So, come on, KB. He stuck the landing.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
He's a really good guy, and I could tell you one of the reasons. Well, I texted him congratulations on the recruiting, but he's not an in-your-face loudmouth. There's a lot of coaches that are in your face and a loudmouth. Kevin commands respect. He's very quiet. He's very soft-spoken. He teaches. He doesn't yell and scream. I mean, he does when he has to, but he's a teacher, and he knows what he's talking about. Did you see the highlights of him playing in 2001? Some of those catches he made?
Yeah.
Diving catches. He had touchdowns, and he's really good. But he was, in the background, because look who we had on his team. Andre Johnson. Right. He had other guys on the team. So, but still, that's why he connects with these kids. And listen, I'm not sure they're going to get Brown. We talked about that a few minutes ago. I still like our chances on Ffrench. I just do. And I think this is a big day today for him in Miami, because he hasn't had his mind made up yet, supposedly. But it also seems like he's blown off some of these other teams. The visits didn't go that well.
Yeah, there was a word Brian Smith told us, and I don't know the details, but apparently the Ohio State visit didn't go well. Now, a couple months ago,
Right,
Ohio State was considered a strong trending favorite for Jaime Ffrench. Now, in recent weeks, Texas has been considered the strong trending favorite. And Brian told me things may not be working out with Texas either.
right,
Now, again, like I would pump the brakes. Like if any Miami fan is like, drop the Dono ball, he's coming here, drop the prediction. There's a long way to go with Jaime
right.
Ffrench. Bruce, this official visit for Vernell Brown and for Jaime Ffrench is so important. Now, from what was reported on Ffrench, I think he's probably on campus now. I know he was a little delayed
Right.
yesterday. There was the weather across Florida was terrible. I think it affected his flight. I don't think he was able to get to Miami as early as he planned to, but he should be there now. And yeah, when you're talking Jaime Ffrench, Bruce, this guy is he's 6'3". This is he's 6'2". The one I'm thinking of who's 6'3" is Dallas Wilson, who's visiting
Right.
this week. But Jaime
Right.
Ffrench is about 6'2", 185 pounds, just an absolute elite outside wide receiver. There's a reason why he's a 5-star and one of the best in the class. So hopefully Miami can make some moves for him this week.
Well, obviously, if LSU or Texas is a may or may not Texas for him, that's because Texas is looking at some really high end other recruits. And, I know Miami's making him a major priority and they need him badly. They need another outside guy who could stretch the field. So they're laying that on him. Listen, we need you badly. You're not worried about us bringing in other guys. I don't think he's that concerned about Vernell Brown. He may
No.
be about Wilson, but Wilson's an Oregon commit. So we don't know about him. But so you got to put all your eggs in the French basket because if we get him, we're in really good shape. Really good shape. So I think Mario and Kevin are going to put it all out today for this kid.
Yeah. And how about Bruce?
And it
This
keeps
coming
coming back to
weekend?
Miami. Miami's always been on his list. No
Oh,
matter where he goes,
absolutely.
he's like a pinball in a pinball machine. But the bottom line is Miami's been in there all the time,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. No doubt. And I know Miami's been in there all the time for DJ Pickett, who's making his official visit this weekend, Bruce. And
Right.
you and I we've had his uncle, Booker Pickett Sr. on the show before. You and Booker Sr. talk quite a bit. And this is a high stakes recruiting battle, Bruce. I mean, this guy, he has the family ties to Miami. His cousin Booker Jr. is doing really well in off-season workouts. We'll talk about him in a little bit, but DJ Pickett, 5-star defensive back, one of the top players in the entire country. And Miami they're in a big competition with the likes of LSU,
All right.
Oregon, who's, by the way, they're not only crushing it recruiting, but they're crushing it in the state of Florida. Like Oregon has really become a factor with a lot of the top kids from the Sunshine State. I think Florida could potentially be in the mix for DJ Pickett as well. You and I think we both have a certain amount of confidence for DJ. I think this is going to be a battle that's going to go into the fall, but I feel pretty good about where Miami stands for Pickett right now.
Yeah, I agree. But he also knows his other cousin, Booker Sr.'s other son, who's an offensive lineman, he knows darn well that he's coming here. I mean, Booker told me it would take like a miracle. We'd have to lose every game for his offensive line kid, who's only a sophomore. He's a class of 2026, but he'll be here. So really, all the Picketts will be here. And if this kid decides not to come, okay, I guess he's somewhat of a pariah in the family. But as Booker told us on the show a few months ago, the kid was never a Miami fan. So, but he's also told me that in his visits over the last few months, he's really connected with Miami. He understands Miami's plan for him. He gets it. He no longer has any, I don't want to go to Miami. Maybe it was like I don't want to do what everybody else does, but now he's on board. He's on board with what their outlook is for him. So the question becomes, what happens? So I remember him saying that he's looking at how we play in the season. We've got to beat Florida, but we have to blow them out. We can't stay in the game with them. We've got to kick their ass because then we play 3 relatively easy teams. We should beat these teams. Right. And then we have Virginia Tech. So how long is he going to wait to see how well we're doing? If we're 5-0 or something like that, I'm sure he's going to be making an announcement somewhere in the fall. But again, I still think we're in the driver's seat for Pickett. I just do.
Yeah, I hope you're right. And, we mentioned his cousin, Booker Jr. D Money at Canes Insight mentioned Booker Jr. as one of the summer enrollees because the guys like the Bobby Pruitts of the world and the Zaquan Pattersons and Elijah Loftons, who were early enrollees in the spring, got to watch some of these guys during spring football, but a bunch of other recruits have just arrived over the past few weeks. We'll talk about how they are doing. You want to keep it locked right here, my friends. We're only getting started on this brand new episode of Locked On Canes. And folks, there's a reason why the Gametime app is the only ticket app that I use, because you're getting the best deals even right up to the start of the event. Sometimes even an hour after an event starts, you're getting amazing last-minute deals at the Gametime app. There's so many things to love. Folks, if you're excited about the NBA Finals, I'm pumped about the Stanley Cup Finals, which are going on right now. Gametime makes getting finals tickets even faster and easier. Prices on the Gametime app actually go down the closer it gets to tip-off or face-off. With killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and their lowest price guarantee, Gametime takes the guesswork out of buying tickets. Folks, if it does get to Game 5, which would be back in Florida between the Panthers and Oilers, you can get tickets. We're talking Stanley Cup Finals starting at $558. Copa America down here in South Florida, $313. If you want to see Inter Miami against Columbus Crew later this month, starting at $47. Red Hot Chili Peppers tickets starting at $117. Guys, they have the deals at Gametime, and I love the views from your seat feature. You get a panoramic view from your seat before you buy. You get all-in pricing, which means you see the total up front. They don't tack on hidden fees at the end. So check this out, guys. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Download Gametime today. Last-minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. Thank you so much for making this episode of Locked On Canes your first listen and your first watch today. Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube, and now it's also available on Amazon Fire TV on the free Fire TV Channels app. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Find Locked On Sports Today, now available on the free Fire TV Channels app. We got the truth teller with us on this impromptu truth teller Wednesday. So, Bruce, if I look at this was reported by D Money at CanesInsight.com, who does a really good job with his, he calls it the bank. Get it, D Money, the bank. Jordan Lyle has been the talk of the town, he writes, and he goes into some other names. But so, Bruce, let's talk about you and I, and on this show, Locked On Canes, we have been all over Jordan Lyle, not just since Miami recruited him, but months back when we had Don Solinger, legendary former Miami running backs coach and legendary high school coach on, he had an opportunity to spend some time with Lyle and had really watched him and studied him. Coach Solinger was over the moon on Jordan Lyle. So
yes, he was.
I feel proud of Lyle, and I also, feel very validated to know that he's apparently doing really well so far at Miami.
Well, it's not a surprise. I trust what Donnie says. I'm not going to say, oh, well, you don't know what you're talking about. I talked to him a lot. We've had him on the show, but there's a lot of running backs ahead of him. And I don't know how much playing time he's going to get this year, but it's good to know that he's tearing it up. It's good to know, but there's things he has to learn, like blocking. And that's part of the problem with Chris Johnson. And so when they're little like that, you got to put them in there and use them. You just can't have them sit there and block all the time, because he's just not a blocker. Lyle is different. Lyle is a combo guy, but I'm happy about that. He mentions other players too. Who were the other guys he's mentioned that are doing well?
Yeah. So also in addition to Lyle, OJ Frederic at cornerback,
Right.
Also cornerback Ryan Mack. So it's nice to hear that, a couple of guys who were, rated 3 stars by the recruiting services are possibly overperforming that. And I'm especially happy to hear that about the cornerback position, Bruce, because Miami needs to stack talent there. If you talk about, defensive secondary maybe being a question mark right now, you need to stack talent there for the future.
Well, we need Ewald and we need Pickett. That would be a damn good start.
Yeah.
Right? Those 2 guys alone is a good start.
2 of the very best in the class.
Right. That's why we need both of those guys, and we're right there for both of those guys.
Yeah, and DJ Pickett, he some of the recruiting services list him as a safety. A lot of programs, including Miami, envision him as a long corner. That's the way that they
They
want to
want
use
long
weekend.
corners. I know Mario wants long corners, and I don't know Chevis Jackson that well, but I know that that's what they're looking for now. They can't have any more of these 5'9s, 165 guys playing corner, which is one of the reasons why they were not that high on Jalen Bell, who went to Indiana. He was short, small.
Right.
They want bigger. They want guys that could hit. Although I know he was a hitter, but he's just not big enough.
Right. Well, and the guy that they just landed, Timothy Merritt from Birmingham,
He's
Alabama,
got
he's
size.
long as well. Yeah, he's got good size.
Yeah.
Yeah. So other players that were mentioned for doing well, a couple of defensive ends, Bruce, and man, Miami is so loaded at defensive end. Booker Pickett Jr. and Elias Rudolph, that apparently they run like deers, was the quote that he heard. And
Yep.
defensive tackle Justin Scott, he hears is doing really well. So that's always nice because again, like Scott was one of the absolute top recruits in the entire country, 5-star. I
Sure
think
was.
the only thing that we need to see from him is going up against elite competition time and time again, because he went to a smaller private high school in Chicago. So, seeing him like actually, running with the best of the best. Now, I have faith Scott can do that because guess what? How do you get a 5-star rating? You get a 5-star rating by competing in all these camps against top recruits in the country.
Right.
So Scott has already shown he can hang, but he's got to show it now at the Power 5 level.
Plus, he's got the offensive line that's pretty darn good. That's going to test him and make him work hard.
Yeah.
And he'll learn from his mistakes. So I think that's good, as opposed to the last couple of years when our offensive line was a joke and our defense would do really well in the spring game and everybody, they're great, but they weren't so great because the offensive line was abysmal. So you have to put it in its perspective. I think the kid's going to get tested. I believe he's going to get playing time this year because I said if Bain could do it, this kid could do it. He might not start. He might not be as dominant as Bain, but he's going to be in the rotation. I'm sure of that. But, we went from what I thought was the absolute worst part of our team, the defense, to now it's just limited to the secondary. And we don't know. The secondary might be good for all we know.
Yeah, they might end up being good. It's just a bunch of guys without experience. So you never know. Because Damari Brown was a top guy coming out of high school. Jadis Richard had a really good spring. He might be ready to break out. The younger safeties Miami has, not even just Zaquan Patterson, who's going to be really good, but Markeith Williams and Jaden Harris have been here for the last couple of years learning under Cam and James. So we can't write these guys off automatically.
No, you can't write them off. But I just think, and we're going to talk about this in a few minutes about the faith in the offensive coordinator.
Yeah.
But I think that let's look at it this way, because as an attorney, I think constantly. Last year, the defensive backs were going up against Van Dyke. And a predictable guy he was, and locked on receivers and things like not checking down. Now you got Cam Ward. If you don't improve in the secondary when you're going against Cam Ward all summer and then obviously in the fall camp, then there's something wrong. That guy's going to test you because he's going to put the ball on the money and you better be in the right place at the right time. So I think for the secondary, having Cam Ward as your quarterback makes a big difference in how you improve. Don't you agree? And it's got nothing to do
100%.
with it's got nothing to do with whether you're good or bad. You're going against this guy now.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I spoke, was it last week or a couple weeks ago with Jadis Richard, and he was singing Ward's praises, and even Bobby Pruitt, the young linebacker, was talking about just how difficult it is going up against a Cam Ward-led offensive practice. So there's no
I saw
question.
that video. I saw that. I watched that show. So yes, and so that's my point. My point is these guys have to get better. Look what they're playing against, as opposed to the last couple of years. The defensive line now is not going to be able to tee off on a stationary quarterback like Van Dyke. This guy runs. And I think that's great for Miami to be able to chase a guy or try to keep him contained in the pocket, things like that. So all good. I know people are going to try to get me to say, why am I so positive about it? Well, we're going to get to that in a minute when we talk about Dawson.
Before we get to that, Bruce, Georgia Tech trolled Miami on social media. But you know what? Honestly, my reaction when I saw this, I chuckled and I said, fair play to them. Fair play. Because a bunch of people sent this to me.
What did they say? I didn't see what they said. What did they say?
So here I'm gonna pull it up. So they were responding to, and I'll describe it, of course, for the audio listeners. So we got the new video game that's coming out in a little over a month. The first college football video game in over a decade.
Oh, really?
Is coming out. Yeah, the new EA Sports college football game. And so College Football Report wrote this social media post, this X post that says EA College Football 25 will have a victory formation feature. As soon as the game is mathematically over, you can just take a knee and players will come into the field. Now, of course, when that X post came out, you figure 80% of the comments are, but it will be disabled for Miami. Will Mario Cristobal actually run this, which was predictable, but Georgia Tech's official X account actually writes, "Don't do it. We dare you. #sting 'em." And then they show, video of Georgia Tech's, I think it was after Miami didn't take the knee and they threw for that touchdown. They trolled Miami on social. And I think people were sending this to me yesterday thinking, oh, this is going to like set Dono off or it's going to piss him off. Fair play to Georgia Tech. I mean, it was low-hanging fruit. It was low-hanging fruit, but I love it. And guess what, Bruce? Miami goes to Georgia Tech November 9th this coming season. Use this as motivation and make them pay. Prove it on the field.
I'm thinking about going to Atlanta and going to that game. I wouldn't mind going to that game to be there to watch us kick their ass. But then again, I have an 85-inch screen TV, so it's almost like being there anyhow.
Yeah.
So how much were those tickets for the Panthers you just said?
Oh,
$500?
$558. But this is the Stanley Cup Finals we're talking about. If you try to go to one of those games in Edmonton, I think you're over 1,000.
Probably. But if anybody wants to watch the Georgia Tech game, my house, it's $50. And no, I just can't wait for that game. There's other games I can't wait for, but that one, I don't think Georgia Tech's going to be in it beyond halftime. I think we're going to annihilate them. And what happens if you lose to them again? Can you imagine?
I'm gonna if Miami loses to Georgia Tech again, and listen, I'm not even discounting Georgia Tech. Like they should be a pretty good team this year. I'm just saying you can't lose to them again after what happened last year. If that happens again, I'm doing my next week of shows with a paper bag over my head.
Well, what I said a couple of days after that game when we did the show was we had no business being in the situation at the end of that game like we were. We should have been killing these guys. So I understand what happened at the end with not taking the knee. I know I've been saying all along they should have called a timeout before the last play to make sure nobody got past their secondary, but they didn't do that either, which really upset me. But I look at that game and say, that's what Mario wasn't prepared. The team wasn't prepared. They just laid an egg. They showed up, thought they were going to kill him, and it didn't happen. That can't happen anymore. That's part of why people keep asking about the offensive coordinator, the defensive coordinator, and Mario. And I keep saying I'm worried less about the talent than I am about the coaching, because those boo-boos and the boo-boo against North Carolina, when the second half, they killed us. They went to the no huddle, and we were like, what's going on? What are they doing? Didn't have an answer for it. That scares me, and I have to be honest. It does. And there's too many people out there that were, when Mario got here, and still to this day, he can't coach. I'm not saying that. But I am saying I am concerned. If we do that again this year with all this talent, then it bothers me greatly. And I'm not going to sit here and don't worry about it. Everything will be fine. I am concerned about it. I want to see us kick Florida's ass, kick everybody's ass, and just go out there and win and play like we used to play. The only time we played poorly was when we really were going to blow teams out. Like we played Toledo once. We beat them 24-14 here. This was like in the early 90s. But that's not how we really played, because you knew next week whoever they played, they were going to slaughter. So that's my only concern. I'm not concerned. All right, let's move on. I talked too much. Go.
All right, so we're going to talk about, because someone asked a question specifically for Bruce to answer about Miami's offensive coordinator. You want to keep it locked right here. We're not done yet on this brand new episode of Locked On Canes. Thank you for making Locked On Canes your first listen and your first watch today. By the way, for the everydayers, You want to take that everydayer experience to the next level? Try our Locked On Canes Insiders chat. I include the link in the show description below. You get text messages directly from my phone to yours, one-on-one questions and answers. We answer some of these questions as we're about to do on the show. I give you guys breaking news, recruiting scoops, and updates. Once the season gets underway, obviously we'll have a lot of info there. Try it free for 14 days. Click the link below. Then if you like it, you can opt in for $4.99 a month. We give you a lot of added value on there on the Locked On Canes Insiders chat. And Bruce, one of our Locked On Canes Insiders, BP, has a question specifically for you. He says, hey, Shannon Dawson, Miami's OC, has proven that he can be a Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde OC. Can you share why you're so convinced that Miami's offense will put up 40-plus points, as you recently referenced on the show? Is it just because the talent has increased? Where are you on Dawson and the offense, Bruce?
All right, so since I am the truth teller, supposedly, I just said I do have concerns. I don't know who's really running the show. I want to see us play every down like it's the last down any of these guys are going to play, and not worry about stuff. I think that Cam Ward replacing Van Dyke is huge, because I'll throw this out to all your listeners and all your everydayers and everybody else. If you were the offensive coordinator, knowing what you know now, and they probably knew it back then, what would you call? What plays would you call with a guy like that? So significant difference. The running back now, you've got another guy who's a stud. You got another stud receiver. You've got your tight ends are now healthy. They had 18 catches last year. Come on. No offense, but I think Alex could probably be the offensive coordinator. There's so much talent. What concerns me is if they're just not prepared. They have to be prepared. Do I have faith in him? Yeah, I do. I can't say no anymore, because he's got stuff now that he can't screw this up. You have so many weapons. You've got an offensive line. They lost a couple of guys. I'm not worried about that. I think the offense should easily score 40 points a game. The defense is another story, but I think now our front seven is way better than when I made these statements a month or two ago. Yeah, I said 40 the other day, and I believe it. I said 35 last year, and we scored, 31, 32? Look who the quarterback was. So I think I'm spot on with 40 or more. Maybe they won't score 40 in every game, but I think they'll average around 40 points a game. They should easily. They may hit 50 a few times this year. So I'm not worried about it. Now, I don't want to see a draw on 3rd and 9. I mean, come on. They did that last year constantly. I'm hoping that they're better than that, and I'm hoping they're better on 1st down. I do not want to see 2nd and long and 3rd and long, because that's where Van Dyke got in trouble. So it's all a question of how he uses the talent. Yes, the talent is important, but how he uses it, mixes it up, and disguises things. So I believe that Miami's going to score 40. I think I just backed it up with why. The biggest difference is Cam Ward.
Yeah, and listen, talent is the most important thing, and I believe in what Shannon Dawson can do with the talent that he now has. And I was encouraged when I spoke with Reese Poffenbarger last week. And by the way, if you guys didn't watch that, Reese is so intelligent. Like I'm really rooting for him at Miami, and I think he's going to end up being a coach someday, because Poffenbarger seems to have that understanding of football. But I didn't ask him this specific question, but he went out of his way to tell me about how he believes Shannon Dawson really adapts the offense to the quarterback, that, the plays when Reese is on the field are not the same plays being called as when Cam Ward or Emory Williams are on the field. So, if Dawson has that ability to adapt the offense to his talent, and of course, if Cristobal, gives him the freedom to really call the plays for players that they all believe in, I think Miami's going to be in good shape this year. I think this offense can go a long way with a solid offensive line, with Cam Ward, with Damian Martinez, with Xavier Restrepo, and the tight ends and company. I think people are going to realize how important talent is to the results on the field. And you may say, hey, I'm not convinced about the play calling last year. Play calling gets a lot easier when you've got Cam Ward under center. So I think we're going to see the difference this year.
Yeah, and also we have not had, who's the last quarterback that we had that could actually make something out of nothing? I mean, you might say
De'Ara King a little bit.
Yeah, De'Ara King a little bit, but this guy is notorious for this.
Yeah.
So I think when there's busted plays or he gets somebody blitzes him and he escapes, positive things are going to happen. Whereas before, you just close your eyes and just hope somebody throws it away so they don't get picked off, or you get sacked for an 18-yard loss on 3rd and 2, something dumb like that. So I just think we're in so much better shape. I just can't wait for the Florida game. You said it off the air. I just can't wait.
Yeah.
I can't wait for that game. I'm going to be very excited, a little nervous, because we are playing up there in wherever that's called. What's it called?
Gainesville or the Swamp?
Oh, they call it. I know the Swamp, but it's like Trailer Hassy. But what's the nickname for Gainesville?
Oh, well, I hope we can make it Canesville this weekend or that weekend. And by the way, it is. I understand, like, supply and demand and everything, but what's happening with the hotel prices there is borderline criminal. I was telling you about this, Bruce, because I'm not only do I want to, obviously I'm going to the game on the Saturday, but I want to spend the night before there, because there's a bunch of Miami Hurricane like events and alumni going on the night before. I'd like to go out to some of that stuff. And I'm looking at hotel rooms in, like standard travel type hotel. Like, we're not talking about the Ritz-Carlton. We're talking about like, Holiday Inn Express there. And for that week, there's going to be so many people in town. The cheapest hotel room I could find for the Friday night before the game is $900 per night, and that's before the taxes and fees. So I'm looking at spending $1,000 on like a 3-star travel hotel just for one. It is. I understand supply and demand. I'm a capitalist at heart, but that is borderline criminal.
Yeah, that is a lot of money. Well, I used to stay at the team hotel, and I don't even remember what it costs, because I used to go with my friends. We were, the Golden Cane guys and Silver Cane guys. I don't know. I remember being in the hotel the night before Randy Shannon road game when Oklahoma kicked their ass. We were all excited. We're going to beat Oklahoma. Yeah, right. We got slaughtered. But yeah, that's expensive. I tell you, stay home and watch it on my TV. But that's on your list, but your bucket list to go to Gainesville.
Well, I mean, okay, hold on. Don't take
go
that.
Go to Gainesville for a different game.
I've actually been to Gainesville before, because I had a friend who went to school there, but I've never actually caught a game, let alone a Miami game, in that stadium. So I'd like to experience it.
$900 worth.
Wow. And that's before the taxes and fees, by the way.
And eating your meals and gas. You driving up or flying up?
Driving up.
Okay, so that's going to be an expensive game. We better win.
Yeah. We better win.
Better win, or you'd be crying all the way home.
Well, listen, I appreciate the truth teller, Bruce Warner. I appreciate everybody who made Locked On Canes a part of your day today. We will talk to you again next time on another episode of Locked On Canes, part of the awesome Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.